The body is truly an amazing interconnected system that needs to be kept in optimal state in order to support health. One of the most important systems that we really need to be looking after is the lymphatic system. And to give us more information on natural solutions to making sure that it's working properly is Keith Macfarlane, a health practitioner and a rebound specialist. Welcome, Keith. So nice to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
The lymphatic system is such an important system, but we talk about a blocked lymphatic system. What causes a blockage in it? And maybe just give us a bit of a context of the purpose of it in the body.
Okay, so interestingly enough, we've got all these different systems in our body, which is incredibly complex and all of that. But the lymphatic system is a system that most people don't know too much about.
Right.
So very often people think of the lymphatic system as your waste disposal system. It gets rid of the garbage, so to speak. For me, the lymphatic system, I always like to think of there's two circulatory systems. There's the blood system and there's the lymphatic system.
Right.
And my simple way of understanding is blood delivers the groceries, which gives us everything we need to function and do our best, and the lymph washes the dishes.
Right.
So unfortunately for most of us, we're having great dinner parties all the time because that's life. We get on with it, we do it. But unfortunately, most of us don't understand how to wash our dishes appropriately.
Right. Okay.
And so when the lymph starts to stagnate, we get these blockages.
Okay.
Now, very often people think of lymph blockages as an edema or a swelling, but you can have microedema, which means very, very subtle buildups of fluid and waste around the body can lead to breeding grounds for bacteria, virus, mold, fungus, yeast, all these sort of things.
Yes.
And really what's happening is nature has an incredible way of dealing with life. Life is abundant and it thrives until the rot sets in.
Yes.
And then nature simply says, aha, well, that's obviously reached a sell-by date and starts breaking it down. Mm-hmm. And so when the lymphatic system is not doing its job properly, we get these little sell-by date areas building up. And this is where we start to develop certain things. And again, depending on where in the body it happens, we get a label.
Yes.
So the lymphatic system for me is possibly one of the most important systems in the body in the sense of keeping us, I want to say, in the now.
Yeah.
Because one of the other things I love to do is I love to understand things on a number of levels. What I've found is that when we want to function optimally, we really can't have baggage.
Yes.
And so for me, the lymphatic system, apart from clearing out all the waste, what most people don't realize as well is probably one of the most important parts of our immune system.
Absolutely.
It's spread throughout the body. It has these nodal areas, which I call the oil filters. So you've got primary ones in the groin and under the arm. But of course, if they get clogged, this is also where we start to find people say, my glands are swollen.
Yes.
But they're actually nodes. So they're these nodal areas, the oil filters. And you've got these little white blood cells, which are the lymphocytes, which are I call them the soldiers. Yeah. And they're busy battling and keeping us. So there are so many parts to this system, and there are various lymphatic organs as well, the tonsils and the spleen and various other things. So this system is paramount in the body for maintaining an optimal functioning environment for ourselves. Right. Clean dishes, nice kitchen,
healthy
dinner
life.
Party. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
So Keith, in terms of, we talk about balance in the body, if you're a generally healthy person, is it likely that your lymphatic system would be generally well functioning, or is everybody in need of doing certain things to get that cleansing process happening? You know,
what's interesting about the lymph system, unlike the blood circulatory system, we have the heart, and the heart is pumping blood 24/7. The lymphatic system doesn't have its own heart.
Right.
I kind of call it the tin man of the body, right?
Okay.
But so there are two very specific pump actions that we need to be doing. Now, most people who are active will be certainly keeping their lymph flowing. However, there are times when we may be having a bit too much of a dinner party and we don't realize it.
Okay.
So the two pump actions are literally daily activities that we have to do. And the first is obviously keep active.
Right.
They did a study once where they put some cameras in. The lymphatic system essentially is throughout the body, but essentially it all moves up to the point just below your collarbones where it drains out, and it returns. Once it's cleaned and purified, etc., it returns to the blood system. Now, at this point here, they put a camera in. It's called lymphography.
Okay.
And they wanted to know how much activity should you do in order to keep that lymphatic system flowing. And so they put a guy on a treadmill, they put cameras in and said, go for it, mate. And of course, he was doing his thing, and the camera showed nothing.
Oh, wow.
Nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And we're very confused because they knew that physical activity causes muscular contraction, there's gravitational interaction, blood vessel contraction, etc., which should be squeezing the lymph. Now, the great thing about the lymph system is they had little one-way valves. So the pressure builds up, valve opens, flows through, valve closes. So it can't go backwards.
Right.
But all that is doing is moving forward with a little bit of pressure. But at this point here, where it's supposed to go back into the blood system, nothing was happening.
Okay.
And the doctor who's performing the test said to the man on the treadmill, please could you take a nice, slow, deep, relaxing breath. And if you can imagine, when we breathe in, diaphragm goes down, the whole ribs, and finally that final bit up here, well, then it exploded.
Okay.
So the doctor said, folks, that's what you need to know. Physical activity is extremely important, but unless you're doing that regular deep breathing, you're not emptying it out. So from my own understanding, I always like to put a little picture to it. I figured the lymph system is like a syringe. Your activity is filling the syringe, but it's the deep breath that empties the syringe.
Okay.
So what people need to bear in mind is the lymphatic system will do as much as it can with activity, but if you're not flushing, you're not getting the full result. And you may be building up this lymphatics. Eventually a postnasal drip can be related to lymphs busting at the seams. Find another avenue. And so we get this postnasal drip, which is actually the lymph going, there's a release, you know. So it's the activity and it's the breathing. Those are so important.
Okay.
Some people say that if you go to the seaside, you'll see all these waves, and you've got these sort of shallow waves coming up. Every 6th or 7th wave is a big wave.
Yes.
And that's how we should breathe.
Okay, that's
if we do our 5 or 6 just normal breaths, and every now and then we go,
like the deep, satisfying sigh that
absolutely.
you need.
And the sigh is almost, just kind of letting it go.
Okay.
Plunging the syringe and emptying it out. Now we can start business again.
Absolutely.
And that's for me how we can remember to get it going. Activity, but don't forget to breathe.
The breathing. So Keith, let's talk about a lymphatic drainage process. So you've mentioned this deep breathing to get it moving, but are there other, I've heard of lymph massages and things like that. So what are the other ways that we could cleanse or clear that lymphatic blockage that might be there?
So there's some very simple ones. As you've mentioned, massage is great. Now, a lot of people don't realize that there are different kinds of massage. And we hear of aromatherapy and deep tissue and various other things. But if you were to take your finger right now, and the folks at home, yourself, if you want to try this, if you pop your finger onto your skin and you have enough pressure just to move the skin. So if you're pushing any harder, if you start slipping off, it's too light. Just when you get hold of it, that's lymphatic massage.
Okay.
And it's because the peripheral lymphatics are just under the surface of the skin. As soon as I press a little deeper, I've closed off the lymphatics.
Okay.
There's some wonderful tools and techniques. I know there's a certain jet water therapy out there that does lymphatic drainage. I'm going to save my favorite for last.
Absolutely.
But what they've also discovered is a light, fast stroke. So, I bashed my arm, and I come, Mom, I bashed my arm. And what does Mom do? She grabs and she goes, come on, you silly, let's go and play again. But what she doesn't realize is that light, fast stroke. She's not going looking for a pressure point. She's not going in front of it. She's simply rubbing it better. And a medical doctor found that a light, fast stroke generates a mild bioelectrical current.
Okay.
And it's that mild electrical current that moves the lymphatics.
Interesting.
And pain is very often a sign of blocked lymphatics.
Okay.
So you damage yourself. The first thing that happens is the lymph flows into the area. It swells. And so immediately, and I'll never forget, one day I was in the garden doing something, and I ran past a wall, and my little toe caught, and I didn't notice until I got inside. And then I found out my little toe was pointing sideways.
Oh gosh, okay.
My wife looked down and went, that doesn't look natural, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing I did was I started rubbing, and I got my daughter to help me with some techniques. And we watched it go from a swollen purple little toe to a mild lilac, normal sized toe. And what was interesting, when we stopped, it swelled again. So sometimes you've got to keep going even after it feels better. Just that very gentle, light touch.
Okay.
Now, of course, I always want to say...
rebounding. You're going to go there? Okay, there we go. So tell us how this helps lymphatic drainage.
Okay, so the Rebound is also known as a lymphosizer.
A rebounder is a small trampoline type of device,
People usually call it a mini trampoline. I like to think of a mini trampoline as something a gymnast would use, so you jump high and you do your somersaults, etc. A rebounder, you stay low.
Okay.
In fact, a lymphatic bounce, you don't come off the mat.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so you're doing this very gentle bounce. But what we've discovered is this very gentle movement is creating pressure. If I was to stand next to you now and push my hand on your shoulder, you'd feel a slight resistance. If I push hard, you'd have to resist that way. But if it was just enough, something would be happening. Now imagine every time you go down on the rebounder or the mini trampoline, your whole body gets a little squeeze. And as I mentioned earlier, the little one-way valves open. So as I jump down, the pressure opens the lymph, and I go up, I get a weightless moment, and the valves close.
Okay.
And so sometimes up to 120 times a minute, these little valves are kind of doing
My
this.
goodness, yeah.
And that's why it's such a wonderful... there was a lady called Linda Brooks who actually said in 2 minutes you can flush your entire lymphatic system. So we recommend to people, especially if you're spending a lot of time sitting, stagnant, you're probably not breathing because you're focusing some device, take a break. And it's a great idea to walk around, etc., but if you've got a rebounder, you get on that rebounder, you do your 2-minute gentle bounce, you're not going to break your sweat, you don't have to worry about changing and etc.
Absolutely.
Go back down. We've got companies that actually insist on it, and they find that people come back more focused,
That's incredible.
emotionally more balanced, and obviously more energized to be able to do the work. That
And how frequently would you do that? I mean, in terms of keeping a maintenance routine
we've got our program, and in fact our company is now endorsed by the Cancer Association, and the ultimate program that we recommend for someone in a serious health condition is anything as little as 10 seconds. Some people can't do more than 10 seconds because they start to feel the detox side effects.
Okay.
But anything as little as 10 seconds to the 2 minutes every hour.
Okay.
So if you can, now I've tried this numerous times, and I got to tell you, every hour is a tall order.
Quite a lot, yeah. It's a
But
good
if you're
discipline.
thinking about what's happening to your body, so I would always say to people, when you start, do your 2 minutes morning and night. You spent the whole night sleeping, you're lying down. You've had a very busy day, have another one at the end. It's like having a personal masseur come to you, right?
Absolutely.
And then if you can, I've just had a big fight with my wife. Go and have a bounce, because the emotional thing might have caused something.
And you also get some of the energy out as well.
Absolutely, right? I go to the gym, have a little short bounce. I've just had a meeting and we're roaring it, have a little bounce.
Okay.
It's washing the dishes.
Absolutely.
It's keeping yourself in that optimum state where oxygen can get in and give you your best possible performance. Yeah.
Wonderful. Keith, I think there's a whole another discussion around this, so we'll
fantastic,
save that for another time. But thank you for
Fantastic.
joining us.
Thank
Really,
you.
really interesting to get a sense of how simple it can be to just
Right.
keep that lymph drainage
And I
working.
think simplicity is the answer, because life is complicated.
Life is complicated. Keep it easy.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Keith. Great to have you with
Appreciate
us.
it. Right.